Hello, hello. I've been in the woods. This was quite sketchy. Evening. How are we? You feel like? Oh, dearie me. Okay.
Someone is about to break no contact with. Hey, you know what time it is. So whenever I put the red light emoji or have the red lights on the background, I kind of have a different setup today because I'm just chillaxing today, you guys.
Tired, man.
I wasn't even planning on coming on doing a reading, but I was being guided to because last night at midnight, Spirit was guiding me to create a whole new channel messages deck here. So these are all channel messages that I sat down for about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, and just kind of put pen to paper. Whatever Spirit gave me, I pulled through. So any important messages that want to come through today, but whenever I put that little red light emoji or have the red lights on in the background when I'm sitting at little red light emoji or have the red lights on in the background when I'm sitting at my desk, that means we're going to do channel messages. So this could be channel messages coming in from the universe, your ancestors, your angels, your guides, your lover. Okay, so I'm going to just pull through the strongest messages that want to come through today. We'll pull some oracle, some tarot, just to clarify. And keep in mind, I do pick up on a lot of different threads of energy, so it may not resonate for everyone, but only take the messages that resonate to you by your intuition and leave the rest. All right, so these cards are bigger than my normal ones, okay? Ooh, I just saw I want to break no contact. I feel like that was a sign because I wasn't really looking down until that moment. I want to break no contact. Okay, so this is going to be somebody that you're not in communication with, somebody that you're in a separation with. Now we'll tap in a little bit more and see what other are the strongest messages that want to come through. Somebody is definitely wanting to reach out. They're wanting to communicate something to you. All right, let's just see here. I'm going to do it this way because 555. Wow. Okay, so whenever this number comes out, that means there's a big transformation happening, okay? Whether you're going through a huge transformation, this relationship with this person that you're in no contact with, now this could be a friend, could be a lover, we'll tap in. Like I said, I'll tap in here, okay? There is a huge transformation happening here. So this could be why they're wanting to break no contact. They could be being guided by a higher power to break no contact. Let me get one more message here. I feel like we can pull through another message here just to see, you know, what it is that Spirit wants you to know today. Okay. Oh, that just fell on the floor. All right. I've been talking about you. Okay. So whoever this is that wants to break no contact with you has opened up recently to somebody about you. Now, this could be a higher power. This could be them just opening up and admitting to themselves that there's a deep connection here. They could be sharing this with somebody that they consider to be a close friend, a family member. I've been talking about you, okay? Now, we also have your proof. So, it seems like this person, something has shifted in their life. With this 555 energy, something has drastically changed for the better because 555 is a beautiful transformation. It's not going backwards. It's allowing something to evolve, something to be fulfilling, something that is going to be potentially challenging but also rewarding. Okay, and so I'm hearing the word unstoppable for whatever reason. And I'm seeing like a leopard print. It doesn't matter what color. I'm actually seeing leopard print in like that grayish color. That might be a sign of synchronicity to somebody. But what I'm getting here is that this person knows that you're the reason that they're experiencing this transformation, and it's causing them to finally speak up about it. Maybe they're confiding in somebody about the way that it's making them feel, or that there's something. I'm getting the word otherworldly coming through here. So the connection between you and this person, the reason that there was no contact was probably because there needed to be a change. There needed to be some sort of transformation to allow this connection to really develop into its full potential. Okay, so that's definitely what I'm getting here. Someone could be a hairstylist. I don't know why that's coming through. We have destiny. This is why. This person knows that you are a part of their destiny. Okay, like your spirit guides, okay? Be careful what you wish for. Okay, so you wanted a connection with this person. If you're resonating with this, it's not your crazy toxic cheater abusive ex, okay? This is somebody that you saw potential in. Maybe you had a connection with them. Maybe it didn't go the way as planned. However, it resonates to you because it will be different for everybody. I'm seeing a triangle for whatever reason.
What?
So maybe there was a triangle situation, but triangles can also mean abundance. Okay, so however that resonates to you. This person, your proof that this person was meant to go through some major transformation, okay? Because their life has only gotten better. And it's almost like you were guiding them. Even if you weren't together, this person is opening up to a friend about you because they feel like you were guiding them in some way. And knowing you has changed their life for the better, okay? We also have X marks the spot. So this is telling me that there's communication incoming. Your paths are going to cross. This person's wanting to reconnect with you. They want to break no contact with the letter X coming out here. Okay, so let's just see here. Give me any other information, Spirit. What other information does my collective need to know? Confirmation. Claim this in the comments. Okay, write confirmation in the comments. Spirit wants you to write this here because what did I channel? Transformation. 555. You are the reason for this person's beautiful transformation. And I feel like it's mutual. Okay, I feel like it's mutual. If you're resonating with this so far, the 5-5 energy coming in with breaking no contact means that you both had to go through some sort of spiritual evolution. Okay, let me see here. I'm seeing another energy, but I just want to clarify really quick here. We have message. Okay, this is confirmation. This person wants to break no contact. Okay, whoever this is, could be a masculine energy. It doesn't have to be. Somebody's birthday could be in July. Somebody could be a life path of 7. The 7th of the month or the number 7 could be something significant to you, okay? Maybe there's been a long, separation. It could be like 7 weeks, 7 months, 7 years. Either way, I feel that something's telling me this connection, it's almost like you and this person were connected before you were connected. You know what I'm saying? This is making sense, all right? That came through right at 7 minutes as well. We're on 7 minutes and 16 seconds now. But I feel that this person's been connected to you long before you guys were even connected in the 3D. For some of you, maybe this is somebody that you're connected to energetically and you have yet to connect with them. But whatever the force is behind this connection, you both evolving into this energy, this person, like, they're not going to be able to hold back. Maybe that's why I was hearing unstoppable. They're not going to be able to hold back because the transformation, they know that you're linked to that in some way. And it's been a guiding force for them. Okay? I do want an awakening on the bottom here. Okay? We do have karma here. And this is kind of watch your 6. Okay? I'm just pulling, like, when I'm guided to pull the next card because they're all kind of, like, sitting here. Watch your 6, and I've kind of been, like, peeping over to the side at it, and I kind of wanted to know here. We have karma here, okay? People are starting to recognize that the more and more that you evolve, if they are allowed in your energy, they get some sort of beautiful blessing, okay? So watch your 6 means there could be people picking up on the fact that you've done a lot of work on yourself and that you naturally have, like, this lucky girl syndrome where things just start happening for you. Your life is changing for the better. People that maybe were in some situations that you...
We are actually moving out of the IDs itself. We are not touching as much the code.
Someone is about to break no contact with you. When the video appears, you are in a position where there's been some kind of miscommunication with someone in your life. I keep realizing that somehow the wires have gotten crossed or tangled up when it comes to communication with you and this person. And I'm getting a message that those wires that have felt so crossed and tangled up between you are getting straightened out in the spiritual realm. And this video is appearing to you at this specific moment to prepare you for when this person does break no contact and reaches back out to you. You've already been sensing this intuitively which is why you felt drawn to this video to begin with, because what I'm getting is you have started to feel this person's energy coming through in either
your life is changing for the better. People that maybe were in some situations that you got out of that are seeing you now, okay, be careful about that. I'm also getting here that somebody could be just nosy, okay? Watch your six means someone could be spying on you. Now, this could be that this person's watching your social media. If you're in no contact, watching your six spying on you could be trying to see what you're up to now, okay? We also have the energy of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So this is confirmation that you're about to hear from this person, okay? We also have the energy of worth the wait. So if you were feeling a little impatient in this connection, there had to be some sort of involvement for you to reconnect with this person. Otherwise, it would have stayed in the energy it was before, or it would have stayed in some sort of triangle energy where there was outside forces that were blocking this connection. Okay, that could mean anything to anybody here. We have house here. Someone could be inviting you to their house. Aquarius energy. Okay, Aquarius energy is the star here. Okay, so either somebody is an Aquarius or they're seeing you as the star. Okay, they're seeing you as the star. We got friendly, humanitarian, honest, and loyal. This is how this person sees you. Independent, intellectual, ruling planet, Uranus. There was a lot. Wasn't Uranus just like in Gemini or something like that? That's stirring up some communication between masculine and feminine, okay? Philip means taking her burden for love. Philip took her pain. More in the description below.
He came with rain on his coat, mud on his boots, blood in his throat. He held her hand at the kitchen door, like he knew that love was for. He said, "Don't stay alone and brave." He smiled like a man who made where the hurt should go.
Let's skip in the first half.
Philip means taking her burden for love. Philip took her pain. More in the description below.
He came with rain on his coat, mud on his boots, blood in his throat. He held her hand at the kitchen door, like he knew love before. She said, "Don't stay alone and brave." He smiled like a man who made a grave in his chest where the hurt should go, so she'd never have to know. And the room went still when he took that away. He said, "Leave it here, I'll carry your shame." Philip took the pain, Philip took the pain, Philip took the pain, Philip took the pain for the one he loved. He wore the blame, he wore the blame. Philip took the pain, Philip took the pain, Philip took the pain, Philip took the pain. And she loved, but he walked away. Now his name hangs soft in the hall, like an old prayer carved in a wall. In the dark where the candles bend, they still speak of him as a friend. He gave her spring and a table set, gave her sleep she could not get, and every scar that sat in him kept the world from coming in. And in a room went still when he took that away. He said, "Leave it here, I'll carry black and ash, and it signed his name. No gold for the man, no hymn, no parade, just a quiet room and the life he made. Philip took the pain, Philip took the pain, Philip took the pain, Philip took the pain, and she left, but he was away.
Oh dear. Yeah. Right, come on, maybe should work watching.
I combined all my old pensions with PensionBee, and I finally have peace of mind. You think you're being irresponsible?
Right, come on.
Following death, these souls would enter D2 Earth core and consciousness would travel into Earth's unified field. Having lost their morphogenetic field, they would incarnate into elemental consciousness and evolve as second-dimensional life forms.
That is you, Supergirl.
They would be trapped in the elemental incarnations until the fourth-dimensional seal of Pallador was lifted from the morphogenetic field.
I love you.
The Palladorian/Amenti morphogenetic field within the sphere of Amenti represented the collective soul matrix for the human lineage on Earth. Because the seal of Pallador, the races would emerge into Earth from the morphogenetic field from D4 instead of through Earth's D2 core. They would experience one incarnation, die, and become part of the consciousness of Earth, losing their sentient identity. Meanwhile, the portion of their essence that had picked up the fourth-dimensional bass tone frequencies while passing through the D4 and birthing would rise back into the lower frequency bands of D4 at death. These fragments of identity became disembodied astral consciousness without a body form or organizational identity imprint. The fifth root race Aryans were able to retain form in their astral identity, as the D4 frequencies were already contained within their fourth DNA strand. Though the Aryans could not plug the second, third, and fourth DNA strands into each other until the fourth strand had been fully assembled, the identity pattern manifested itself within the second, third, and fourth dimensions, creating an emotional/elemental body in D2, a mental body in D3, and an astral body in D4.
I feel well too.
As the Aryan race progressively assembled its fourth DNA strand, unity between D2 emotional awareness, D3 mental awareness, and D4 astral awareness would result, allowing the consciousness to separate from the physical body and travel through the D4 astral planes. Once all the fourth strand was assembled and the ancestral soul fragments integrated, the seal of Pallador would release in the Aryan genetic code. The emotional, mental, and astral identities would merge. The activation code overtones of the fifth cloister, the Hebrew, would plug in and release the seal of Amenti, allowing ascension through the blue flame in the sphere of Amenti to occur. The third and fourth root races did not have an astral body, as their genetic imprint did not include the fourth D4 strand of DNA. Only members of races 3 and 4 who participated in interstellar breeding were able to create the organizational form of an astral body in D4 and splice in the imprint for the fourth DNA strand. Members of these earlier races from the second and third seeding could not pass into their race's morphogenetic field at death, and thus they could not reincarnate into the fifth root race. At death, their soul essence fragmented into the unified fields of dimensions 2, 3, and 4, where they would have to merge with the Aryan consciousness in order to ascend. A great burden was placed upon the Aryan root race and its cloister Hebrew, for they became responsible for assimilating the fragments of consciousness from their race 3 and 4 ancestors before they could fully ascend. These ancestral soul fragments appeared as fragments of incarnational memory and chaotic identities, subpersonality fragments from the elemental, mental, and astral planes, which would assemble into the conscious awareness as the astral, mental, and emotional bodies merged through assembly of the fourth DNA strand. Along with this burden, the Aryans and Hebrew also had to integrate the missing sixth overtone in DNA strand 1, through which the seal of Amenti could release and ascension take place. Until the seal of Amenti was released, the antiparticle codes that could not merge with the physical body built up within the etheric body level of the auric field, the antiparticle double within the parallel earth. This electrical buildup in the etheric body caused the physical body particles to become overly dense and manifested as blockages, called miasms, within the natural energy channels of the body, accelerating the manifestation of physical disease and the cellular deterioration process. The Aryan and Hebrew races, and their Aryan and Hebrew descendants, would inherit this burden of cellular clearing. Most humans of the present day have the fifth root race coding, and are subconsciously involved with this process of cellular integration of the emotional, mental, and astral bodies, and assembling The seal of Pallador would create a buildup of chaotic energy / identity fragments within the elemental, mental, and physical planes, until the fifth root race fulfilled its genetic imprint and assembled the fourth DNA strand through which these soul fragments could be released. An alternative to fragmentation was offered to the races through the later inception of what came to be called the Third Eye of Horus. Though the burdens of evolution placed upon human consciousness under the seals of Amenti and Pallador would be great, the Elohim and Ra Confederacy knew this before orchestrating the second seeding, and they allowed it to occur as a way of assisting to purify the digressive genetic codes. The lower vibrating genetic imprints would dissolve into the unified field of D2, while the soul essences could re-evolve through the fifth races. They knew that one day, when Earth's grid vibrated high enough, the sphere of Amenti could be returned to Earth's core, releasing the fourth dimensional seal of Pallador, and the souls lost at D2 and D4 could ascend. Not only did the seal of Pallador create problems within the incarnational process, it also created problems for the physical incarnates on Earth. The race morphogenetic field through which a race incarnates represents the living memory bank of that evolving race. If the morphogenetic field of a race is removed from a planet and its energies are no longer running through the planetary grid, the entire race memory is wiped out of the planet's cellular memory. People alive on the planet cannot find the content or sequence of most of the race memory. They do not remember their origins, the purposes for which they came, or their destination through the course of their evolution. The portions of the race morphogenetic field removed from the planet take with them the DNA strand imprint through which that memory would be stored within an incarnate's bodily cellular memory. Corresponding DNA particles break loose from the operating DNA strands, lose their sequence of linear order, and cannot translate through the neurological structure of the human into conscious perception. DNA particles breaking loose from the operating strands became what Earth scientists call junk DNA, stored within the cells with seemingly no purpose. After the seal of Pallador was set, the races of the second seeding would enter incarnation with no memory of their identity or of the higher dimensional worlds from which they came. This knowledge would be stored within the fourth dimension and could be accessed only through the astral essence. The races would also forget their connection to the Earth and to each other, as this memory is stored within the second strand and is blocked from mental view. The human of the second seeding would have a new kind of consciousness, a perception of exaggerated duality and a sense of separation from all things that would bury memory and the truth of the teachings of the sacred law of one. Through the dismantled DNA code stored in the cells, the humans would develop a subconscious mind, containing the consciousness of its second strand and soul fragments drawn in from the D2 elemental unified field. A time of dream assimilation would have to take place in order to begin assembling the astral awareness of the fourth strand and the soul fragments drawn in from the D4 unified field. A new kind of multi-layer consciousness would develop in the human, quite different from the earlier unified awareness of its immortal body. Even for visitors of non-human lineage, the memory of the planet's history would not be found unless it were accessed through the sphere of Amenti in the fourth dimension. The seal of Pallador placed Earth in a frequency quarantine, through which it became temporarily disconnected from its intergalactic community. Humans on Earth would not be able to remember what existed on the Earth, or that Earth was a member of vast multidimensional reality fields containing innumerable sentient forms of life. The human developed tunnel vision, a condition which remains today within the majority of people on Earth. Great hope was placed upon the success of the fifth root race evolution, for the fifth root race was designed to assemble the fourth DNA strand, the strand that corresponded to the fourth dimension. If the fifth root race could fully evolve its strand, their astral awareness could pass through the seal of Pallador. While they were still alive in body, they could consciously awaken in their astral bodies, discover the secrets of their missing codes, and begin to consciously heal the mutations in their gene codes. The fifth races would become the keepers of records for Earth, until the sphere of Amenti was returned to Earth's core, as they could pull the lost race memory from the sphere of Amenti in D4 and bring it alive once again upon the planet. Following the removal of the sphere of Amenti from the Earth's core 5.5 million years ago, the Earth grid rapidly plunged in speed, then began an even more rapid acceleration as erratic energies left over from the sphere filtered through the Earth bioenergetic system. Climactic changes again occurred. Land masses slid beneath the waters, and great quakes rumbled through the planet. Within 3 years of the removal of the sphere, a great flood came that covered over 85% of Earth's surface. The memory of this flood, along with that of 2 others, was given to you by the Elohim and recorded in your biblical history as one event. The flood of 5.5 million years ago just described is the first major flood on Earth. The second flood occurred about 849,000 years ago, and the third during the third seeding of the root races. There were many other periods of flooding, but these 3 periods were the most notable. With the seal of power came a wall in time behind which the truth of human lineage was hidden. Humans born in the second and third seedings would be marked by the seals of Amenti and Palador, bearing the burden of a past of which they would have no memory. It could take millions of years for the Earth grid vibrational rate to rise enough so that life with 4th-dimensional coding, the 5th races, could be sustained and the sphere of Amenti returned so that the seal of Palador could be lifted. Human evolution was stunted 5.5 million years ago, and would have remained so if it were not for Sirius B. Chapter 2. The second seeding. Sirius B and the third eye of Horus. 4 million years ago, in an attempt to revitalize the human evolutionary program, on behalf of the Terranates who had sacrificed their freedom 550 million years ago to rescue the lost souls of Tara, spells with an S, by skipping the first half of its first D4 cycle. Earth would then pass into the first D4 cycle at the half-cycle point and continue its path of natural evolution through the D4 time cycles. This movement of 2,213 years ahead, 1,106.5 years back, and 1,106.5 years ahead in time, represents a cumulative leap of 2,213 years in evolution space-time progression. The Draco Zeta frequency fence would end up in the dimensional frequency bands below the bridge zone frequency bands in which the Earth was positioned, and thus Earth's grid would be unaffected. However, once Earth was above the frequency fence, it could not be re-entered into the dimensional bands below the fence. The Merkaba fields of Earth would reseal in 2017, locking Earth into the bridge zone time continuum. If the Guardians were going to force an early Doré Adeshi by moving both the overtone/electrical fields and the base tone/magnetic fields of Earth into the bridge zone time continuum cycle during the 2017 half-cycle point, the move would have to be permanent. Bridge zones. The idea of shifting a planetary body from one time continuum to another is civilization that does not yet have a working comprehension of multidimensional physics. We assure you that such a procedure is most definitely real and valid in terms of the structural and energy dynamics of the time matrix. This procedure is not used frequently, for it is a complex and delicate process requiring direct intervention from the higher harmonic universes of Harmonic Universe 3 through Harmonic Universe 5. For the most part, planets and civilizations are allowed to evolve along the course of their own development, following their own choices, and meeting with the consequences of those choices. But occasionally a planet and its people get into trouble that has far-reaching consequences for numerous planetary systems, and in these cases intervention in the course of evolution is permitted. Earth is presently in such a state of potential crisis, and unbeknownst to most of its populations. Time cycle mechanics and evolution. Time cycle mechanics. In order to understand the dynamics involved in such a time continuum shift, it is helpful to realize that the structure and illusion of linear time is created through the pulsation rate of particles and their relationship to that of other particles. Each of the 6 4,426 year smaller cycles within one 26,556 year harmonic time cycle represents one time continuum. A 26,556 year harmonic time cycle, through which a planet evolves through the three-dimensional bands of one harmonic universe, is called a Uego. A planet passes through each of the 6 smaller time continua as it progresses upward through the three-dimensional scale within its harmonic universe. Each dimensional band contains 2 time continua of 4,426 years each, so each dimension represents a time track of 8,852 years. A harmonic universe 2 family known as the Ceres with an S, and several other harmonic universe 2 groups created a plan through which human evolution on Earth could be restarted.
This is a narration by D.F. Nicholson.
The Atlantean Conspiracy and Round Tables. Long-term problems and immediate solutions. Rainbow Roundtables. The sacred science mechanics by which the planetary Christos realignment can be fulfilled have long been hidden within the legends of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. The Round Table of Arthurian legend referred to signet councils. The word signet refers to stargates. In the ancient knowledge of the Pleiadia Urtite cloister races, the signet councils were the specific groups of angelic humans that assembled to run the corrected fire letter sequences into Earth's planetary shields during SACs, to prevent pole shift and progressively restore Earth's D12, Christos Divine Blueprint, the shield of Aramintina. The Round Table of Arthurian legend referred to the Rainbow Round Table, RRT. The RRT are groups of angelic humans assembled in the 4 evolutionary rounds who are commissioned to run the Rainbow Ray or Kunda Ray primal sound field from beyond the 15-dimensional time matrix into Earth's planetary shields during SACs. Running of the Rainbow Ray during SACs enables the planet to retain its natural electromagnetic balances to avert pole shift and restore the organic D12 planetary Christos alignment. Since 9558 BC Atlantean flood, knowledge of the RRTs has been intentionally hidden from the angelic human races of contemporary Earth by human Illuminati and fallen angelic races that desired to create pole shift during the long-anticipated 2000 through 2017 SAC. They hope to use the 2000 through 2017 SAC to finally fulfill their plan of clearing Earth's real estate of angelic human races to later resettle their hybrid races on Earth after the dust settles under a one world order anti-Christiac agenda of totalitarian exploitation and dominion. The Atlantean Conspiracy. The fallen angelic / Illuminati human anti-Christiac agenda gained a stronghold on Earth in 25,500 BC when Nibiru Marduk Anunnaki plus Omnicron Draconian, seized control of Nibiru and Earth's D4 Universal Solar Stargate 4 in an event known as the Lucifer Rebellion. The information pertaining to the Anunnaki Draco Zeta intended dates of the first wave phantom pulse transmission. Plans were made among Anunnaki loyal Illuminati and human members of the world management team to begin official disclosure of visitor race presence. Official disclosure was intended to prepare human populations to make a united, peaceful stand in protecting Earth's territories from further advancement of the several activation. Their human amnesiac force will become the awakened human victory force. The UIR fallen angelics are now scrambling to motivate their Illuminati sleeper puppets of the world management team to force through immediately their one world.
Oh, yeah.
Universal Occultism Channel. New books every week. If you want.
Paradise Lost by John
Hey.
Milton. Book 1. The Argument. This first book proposes, first in brief, the whole subject, man's disobedience, and the loss thereupon of paradise wherein he was placed. Then touches the prime cause of his fall, the serpent, or rather Satan in the serpent, who, revolting from God and drawing to his side many legions of angels, was by the command of God driven out of heaven with all his crew into the great deep. Which action passed over, the poem hastes into the midst.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Voyagers Volume 1. The Sleeping Abductees of the Emerald Covenant, CDT Plate Translations. By Ashiana Dean, formerly published as Anna Hayes. Introduction. All Things Considered, Otherworlds, Origins, and Evidence. Voyagers is a set of books best approached by asking the question, what do we really know about the nature of reality? Many of the ideas presented in this book are different from the old belief paradigms through which we've been taught to view reality. They do not negate the old, but rather challenge old ideas to evolve. I suggest that the distracted and will create all sorts of political, economic, and environmental strategies aimed at fueling controversy, internal conflict, and other preoccupations, so the public does not have time or energy to notice that information on many things is being withheld and misrepresented. Be aware of the tactics being used, for they are employed to sidetrack you from the covert agenda that will affect everyone more than you know. Does availability of money affect you? Does personal security for yourself and loved ones affect you? Does your biological and psychological health affect you? For these are the specific areas through which they plan to manipulate you on a mass level. The old agenda is much larger than you suspect, and it has been progressively employed in stages. This plan is still being carried out by those involved. On the surface you may see still waters, or perhaps a little ripple here and there just so things look natural enough. But did you ever think of what might lurk within the murky depths of the collective world government infrastructure? You have probably been too busy with more important things, just as you have been programmed to be. The interior government has approximately 100,000 key members globally at the time of this writing, no small enterprise. We are referring here to its human members. Many others are involved, but do not consciously know what they are submerged within. Once in, members rarely get out, alive. This may sound like some sort of plot from a communist regime, but it is in operation beneath the democracies of the world also. At least within the dictatorships, the common people know they are not free and can make their choices accordingly. But in the democracies of the world, the people believe in the freedoms provided by their constitutions and judicial systems. They believe they are free, and in one sense they are free from knowing that they are being compromised by an interior elite. Free from knowing what they are being subjected to at the hands of these hidden directors. free to think that they alone are controlling their own destiny as they struggle to evolve within the status quo. Who do you think would benefit the most from having the public believe that UFOs were hoaxes and aliens imaginary? The public? Do you really think your national or personal security is being protected by having the public kept in the dark about the fact that humans are not the only or most intelligent form of life in the universe? Wouldn't you rather know the truth? Why do you think the truth is being kept from you? Who would benefit most? Questions you might choose to ponder if you ever have time for such things. These statements may anger many of you, those of you who love your free countries and the liberties they stand for. It would reduce you to tears if you knew the truth of what goes on behind the back of your official governments. So preoccupied are your people with the surface issues that few look deep enough or far enough to begin to see the scheming that takes place underground and behind closed doors. Those who get close often disappear, meet with a terrible accident, or decide to conveniently kill themselves. We are not joking. We are not exaggerating. Does this sound like democracy to you? In our opinion, it is an indignity to the concept and a desecration to the good-hearted people who would put their lives on the line to uphold their country's virtue. And so we tell you of some of the truths you may not want to hear. Now we will tell you more, for those who desire to understand. The interior government plans to use the Zeta they pretend to cooperate with for their technology and knowledge. And when they feel confident enough in using these new acquisitions, they plan to overpower the Zeta in their weakened condition. Then they hope to further implement their plans of directing and controlling global resources. The Zeta, however, are far better at this game of strategic manipulation, and have been covertly manipulating the human element within the interior government since the beginning of their involvement. Holographic inserts. One type of technology that is presently being shared by the Zeta is the artificial creation through mechanical means of holographic inserts. See page 27. Zeta are able to initiate this tactic using mental applications and without mechanical devices. They have not divulged these methods to the humans, but instead convinced them that human biology was not equipped to create that level of implementation, which is only partially true. This covert Zeta and human team is planning to utilize this technology to manipulate and direct large masses of people. And they are orchestrating it in a way that will hit home with the gentlest of souls. Holographic inserts depicting religious personages and dramas have already been employed in small doses, as test runs for the greater applications. Faking miracles, appearances of saints and holy ones, the return of deceased loved ones, all of these personally sacred subjects are fair game to the exploitation of holographic inserts. Plans are in the making to stage dramas using the traditional as well as New Age belief systems. True miracles and visitations will also be occurring as this century closes and will continue well into the next. How will you know which events are real and which events are being manufactured to manipulate the populace? How will you know who or what to believe when you won't even be able to fully trust what your five senses are telling you? Is there a way to detect a holographic insert or to protect yourself from being victimized by them? We will address these questions and more in the following sections. If our perspective seems radical to you, upsetting and unsettling, we apologize. It is hoped that you can understand the concern and indignation on your behalf from which we speak. There are many beings, both human and otherwise willing and able to assist you in your growth and spiritual development. There are many positive agendas taking place within your external government, scientific and religious communities that provide needed assistance, growth opportunities, and support to the public. And there is a wealth of kind-hearted, just, spiritually aware people throughout your world whose dedication, Love and wisdom serve to uplift and inspire your species toward fulfillment of its vision of brotherhood. These positive forces, combined with a treasury of support behind the scenes from within the multidimensional and multi-universal systems, continue to move humanity forward in its evolution despite the efforts of the interior forces to thwart them. You are progressing well in your development toward enlightenment, and we commend you. If we did not fully believe that humans were capable of fulfilling the role for which they were created, the role of Earth Guardian and conscious co-creators of reality, we would not labor to bring you information you will need in your journey to success. Unlike those who attempt to hold you back, we do not underestimate your intelligence, your fortitude, and your ability to become responsible for the direction in which your destiny unfolds. We believe in your innate goodness and honor you for the noble beings that, in truth, you are. Let us remind you of that nobility so that you may rediscover the beauty of your race and allow that beauty to burst forth into the universe, renewing all that it touches. May you, yourselves, be renewed in resurrecting the majesty of your multidimensional being. Next, we will explore the current interior agenda of holographic inserts and how these will be used in an attempt to direct you away from the truth and integrity that live within you. Frequency fences. The technology of the holographic insert holds great promise for furthering the development of your species. This ability, even if it was mechanically created, would revolutionize every aspect of your society. It would also begin to open your abilities to traverse your localized time portal system. The Zeta have not provided the data necessary for the time portals to be activated. They do not want the interior government or any other humans to have access to a working knowledge of these systems. Instead, they have provided some information to the interior forces to appease them, but this data is distorted and incomplete. So the interior as well as the exterior scientific communities still struggle with sending things back in time and making them disappear. Some progress has been made in the case of the latter. The Zeta are utilizing the interior's greed for power. They are helping to orchestrate the utilization of holographic inserts on large masses of people. Though the interior government thinks the Zeta are assisting them to put in place certain mass frequency control devices that will eventually have the power to scramble selected human brain wave patterns, thereby blocking out frequencies coming from sources outside of government control, such as those transmitted by ET and other dimensional groups, and also the frequency patterns emanating from the personal and collective soul matrix, but the Zeta are in actuality working toward orchestration of a different plan. Zeta are helping to create this frequency fence, but not in order to assist the interior government in creating a docile and obedient populace. The interior desires to control the mental and emotional forces within the populace in order to use individuals and masses to do their bidding. They are interested in creating a form of super soldier that will be able to easily neutralize simple human armies. By setting itself up as the invisible big brother, they will not only be able to hoard and control the distribution of Earth's resources, but they hope to be able to explore and conquer new territories once the time portal codes are activated. Their purpose is to plunder for personal gain and for the thrill of the kill in bringing others under their dominion. Other abusive forces that do exist within the universe watch them with amusement, as the interior is playing right into their hands. As the interior moves silently forward with its plan of dominion, their Zeta helpers are using them to help fulfill their personal agenda. The interior is more concerned with keeping people distracted, fragmented, and confused, so they do not notice that their freedom is being stolen out from under them. The unenlightened Zeta have something else in mind. These factions of the Zeta race, resigning themselves to the probability that they would reach extinction before finding a way to return to their own planet and time continuum, decided to opt for the next best solution. If they could cultivate hybrids acclimated to the Earth environment, they would be able to repopulate the planet. There is one small obstacle in the way of this plan, however, the presence of the human race. Other species could easily be dominated and integrated into a Zeta-regulated society. But humans will not be easy to subdue, and the Zeta know this. The Zeta acknowledge their present dependence upon the species for the provision of genetic material. They have a plan of segregating the global population into those possessing desirable genetic qualities and those who do not have qualities they care to reproduce. The humans chosen as breeders would be utilized to create a workforce to supply Zeta needs, and the best among them genetically would be used to create various strains of hybrid beings to strengthen and recolonize their settlement on Earth. Humans presently do not have the power to successfully ward off the Zeta through force. The planet would be plundered in the attempt to do so. Humans' greatest defense is becoming aware of what is taking place and uniting their energies with those willing to assist in the name of universal brotherhood. The renegade Zeta must not be permitted to fulfill their plan. Though this plan is still in its early stages within your three-dimensional Earth system, this is not the case in several parallel and adjacent systems. One adjacent system in particular has been fully infiltrated, and those controlling that reality have their sights set upon expanding into your three-dimensional Earth system at a time coordinate that exists within your future. Humans that enjoy their present levels of freedom within the democracies of Earth and those who believe in the liberties of a free society had best take heed of the events now occurring within that adjacent system, as the groundwork for its interception is presently being set within your global community by the interior government forces. We will elaborate upon this adjacent Earth system in sections to follow, but for now we will return to our discussion of holographic inserts and how they are presently being used to direct the perceptions of your people. Previously we mentioned that holographic inserts using themes popular within your traditions were being used in test runs of the project. Most of these tests were orchestrated using individuals or small groups of people, in which scenarios pertinent to these subjects were created and the emotional reaction patterns of the participants were studied. Attention is paid to perceptual range of the human subject, as the Zeta are aware that are great variations among the populace in regard to perceptual ability. They are attempting to find a consensual mean of frequency through which they can broadcast the holograms and hope to use the frequency fence to block out frequency bands that do not fall within that average range. In this way, large masses of people can be tuned into the particular range of the holographic insert and blocked from receiving frequency that would create sense data that was in contradiction to the illusion of the insert. The inserts are being designed to engage the emotional facilities of the human. Themes deeply engraved within the minds of the people are being contrived into distorted interpretations of events that have basis in reality for the subjects. As Zeta have time portal access, they have been able to monitor some of the activities of the other ET, interdimensional, and guardian groups who are planning to create encounters with humans for purposes of helping the populations to grow and evolve successfully. Though the Zeta will not be able to stop these helping groups, or halt the implementation of the events they plan to create, they are able to scan the intended events and create distorted versions of them through the holographic inserts. Over the next 20 years, alignments of certain key time portal structures are occurring, following the cycle intrinsic to your planetary placement within the galactic grid. These alignments make it easier for data to be entered into your system from other times and other dimensions. Many of the helping groups intend to use this opportunity to introduce new information and technologies that will assist in the evolution of your species. The Zeta and the interior are aware of this, and they do not want this information to be made available to the masses as it is intended. They are planning now to raid certain of the positive agendas, creating misleading holographic inserts that will direct the perceptions and thoughts of the populace away from the applications of the positive agendas. The Zeta are using images, scenarios, and personages held sacred to the traditional religions to divert the people into submission, subservience, and blind obedience to the official and covert governments. Philosophies that rely upon congregational following of authorities, in which people are taught to trust the leader's interpretation of spirituality above their own spiritual comprehension, a practice coloring most of the world's traditional religions, are primary targets for manipulation using holographic inserts. The Christian and Jewish faiths, along with some Eastern practices and traditions popular within the South American continent, have been singled out as primary testing grounds for the implementation of holographic inserts on a mass level. People who blindly follow the dictates of these traditions, and those who lead them, are especially vulnerable to holographic manipulation. David Koresh and the Waco, Texas, Branch Davidians, and Marshall Applewhite and the Heaven's Gate Group are two such organizations that have been manipulated by the unenlightened Zeta through holographic insert technology. The inserts have been and will be used to lead people away from the true divinity that lives within them and from any true spiritual connection. The desired result of this manipulation is to sever the actual energetic connection of the individual to the personal soul matrix and reconnect the individual to a group mind network existing within another dimensional structure. The Zeta are well aware of the multidimensional operation of the collective mind, as their own species existed for centuries under such a structure. Though the mechanics of this endeavor are complex, the concept is simple. All people exist as individualized embodiments of a greater energetic identity. This greater identity can be viewed as the portion of their conscious awareness that is too large in energy volume to fit into the limited confines of the body structure. The body, and the consciousness focused within it exist within this greater pool of energy, and it is this energy that creates the body, sets the autonomic body processes, and continually feeds the body life force energy. There are certain structures that link the body, mind and emotions to this soul matrix of energy. See error, reference source not found. It is possible, for those who understand how to manipulate the subtle energy bodies, to splice an individual from one soul matrix into another matrix, and disconnect the bioenergetic circuitry from the original soul. This process can be used to assist individuals under certain conditions, but it can also be used to disable them from connecting with their greater identity and innate spiritual connection. When used in negative applications, you could view this process as soul robbing, as the physical embodiment is stolen from its original soul matrix. This is precisely what the Zeta have in mind as part of their agenda. By linking those selected from the human populace into a false matrix, part of the original Zeta collective mind matrix, humans would be easily controlled, as the false matrix would continually sustain certain holographic inserts, making them appear as permanent features of reality. Any essentially illusional reality could be sustained in such a way, and the humans involved would have no idea or memory indicating that anything was out of order. As the individual becomes disconnected from its original soul matrix, all memory contained within its DNA and cellular pattern is wiped away, as it is the soul matrix that acts as the programming device and storage house for human memory. When the human is fully connected to the false matrix, the original connection to the soul can then be disengaged, and the new matrix will program the DNA and download the memories purposely programmed into the false matrix. At this point in the process, there would be a brief lapse of all memory, and a minor disability in short-term memory functions, while the cellular code begins to process its new set of instructions. There may be trace memories from the original soul program that arise to awareness in ghost image form, which will occasionally create severe mental disturbances for the human subject. Pieces of memory from the old program may emerge spontaneously from cellular residue and interface with the operational instructions from the new program, distorting the electrical impulse patterns to the brain, as well as the chemical balances of the human biology. In severe cases, the individual will be unable to hold a consistent present moment focus in time, and will flip back and forth between a multitude of identity fragments that represent pieces of memory from both residual traces of the old soul matrix, not only memory bits from the individual, but also from the entire bank of identities stored in the soul matrix, and fragmented pieces of the new program and the entire contents of the Zeta collective false matrix. The human biology is not designed to assimilate such an onslaught of inconsistent electrical data and will be biologically unable to process the memory fragments into a coherent focus of identity in time. Should the unenlightened Zeta plan from the old agenda reach fulfillment, your populace would literally be robbed of its individual and collective memory, creating biological puppets that the Zeta could program in any way they choose. In this way, they will be able to take advantage of certain desirable strains of humans, while easily controlling them by directing the contours of their individual and mass identities. The complexity of orchestrating a mental takeover on a species level is vast, but it has been done before at different times within all of the dimensions. The aftermath of such a project is always disastrous in the long run, for the planet and local galactic structure as well as for the life forms existing within those systems. There are areas within the intergalactic and multidimensional grid that at different times have literally been blown out of the grid and cut off from the reality fields of which they were a part. Like humans and other biological individuals, planets and galaxies also possess a soul matrix, of which the soul matrices of all the system's inhabitants are a part. All of these grids or matrices are created through and connected to the time matrix. Error, reference source not found. The time matrix is the energy distribution system which carries life force energy from source into the dimensional systems. When a planet or galaxy is blown out of the grid of its soul matrix, which directly connects it to the time matrix and thus perpetual energy supply, its energy and its evolutionary potentials become finite. The system falls into digression, and as its finite energy quotient is expended, the system has no way to replenish its supply. The existing energy is recycled within the system, but will eventually become negated as the recycling continually reduces the thrust or power contained within its particles. The matter forms within such a system deplete, atrophy and eventually, sometimes over hundreds of thousands of years, implode, their blueprint, and thus the possibility of regeneration or replication, fragmented into unorganized units of energy and consciousness. This fragmented energy is the state of being indicated by your concept of oblivion. It is the condition your religious concept of Hades or hell was intended to depict, in symbolic form. Your concept of purgatory describes the experience of living within a system that was cut off from the grid, before its pending implosion. It has also been used to indicate the state of being for the personality who has become severed from its own soul matrix. Zeta planet destruction. All within the time matrix grid is interconnected, and when a planet or galaxy is blown off the grid, a hole is left within the grid fabric. This hole affects everything within the area of activity surrounding the hole, as energy flowing around the broken grid lines hits blank spots or breaks in the pattern. The grid lines within the time matrix represent time continua, or passageways of linear time sequencing. When energy approaches the hole in the fabric of the time matrix, it is magnetically pulled into the hole. Once it enters the hole, the time sequence organization that it originally carried as part of the time matrix becomes scrambled, and the energy is no longer able to re-enter the time matrix from the position in which it first entered the hole. This energy can take the form of an individual in biological form, a personal soul matrix or soul, a planet or galaxy, or the entire galactic soul matrix. When one element from within a given time continuum enters the whole, its own sequential program will serve as a beacon for all other energies possessing that particular coding. This beacon not only broadcasts its signal back into the time matrix through its electrical particles, which act as transmitters, but it also begins to draw in like energy through its magnetic particles, which act as magnetic receivers. The element lost within the hole then pulls in more and more energy from its home system. The holes we are referring to are, of course, the phenomena you describe as black holes. As described in previous sections, the Zeta originally entered your system as they searched for solutions involving conditions that occurred upon their own planet, Apaxian Lao. The conditions the Zeta hoped to remedy are precisely those described above. Through their experimentation with dimensional frequency blending, they created a situation in which a minute hole was ripped into the frequency pattern of the regions involved in the dimensional merge. The intended merger of dimensional fields was not successful, as the hole would not allow the area of frequency blending to stabilize into a consistent particle code pattern that would allow for a stable linear time sequence to take hold. The blended dimension reality field was kept open for several hundred years before the Zeta became aware of the hole. A great amount of energy from this blended region fell into the hole and systematically pulled in more and more energy. Black holes will pull in first those forms that possess energy coding that is consistent with the coding of the particles that exist at the site of the hole. That is, the items to first disappear are those whose particle structures are in the continuum, or grid strand, where the break-in pattern has occurred. In the Zeta incident, this particle compatibility emerged within certain elemental components of the outer atmosphere of their home planet. Over centuries, there became obvious depletion of this elemental component within their atmosphere. which is what led the Zeta to suspect that there was a problem with their dimensional blending project. The hole was finally located and identified by observing the rate and form of depletion of controlled samples of the outer atmosphere. The depletion rate was accelerated when the samples were placed in various locations upon the planet. They were able to pinpoint the hole by observing particle movement and following the path of accelerated particle depletion for the element in question. They were able to follow the beacons emitted by the particles within the hole, but only to a certain point at which the beacons, minute electrical emissions, would disappear. It took several generations to discover that these particles were pulling in an exponentially expansive quantity of matter. The particles would disappear as the scrambling of their base-time code structure occurred. The original code was unraveled, its elements dispersed within the reality fields of the black hole. The Zeta realized that this condition was a result of the dimensional blend, and so they hoped that by undoing the blend and closing the mediation zone between the dimensional portals that had been forced open, that they could effectively disengage the black hole. What they did not realize is that once a hole is created, it will continue to exist until all energy that passed through it is reclaimed and restored to its original time sequence organization. They were able to close the mediation zone effectively, and when they observed the area where the hole had been, the hole was no longer there. The Zeta assumed that they had closed the hole when they closed the mediation zone territories in which it had existed. This was not the case. The mediation zone had been created by merging certain frequency patterns of the third-dimensional and other dimensional versions of their planet. The frequency patterns of each were bent slightly until they came into range of each other. Then an artificial frequency splice was added to serve as a bridge between the two frequency bands. This bridge forced open an existing dimensional portal and kept it open as long as the bridge was in place. This is a manipulation process that goes against universal law, as it throws the entire time cycle of which it is a part out of synchronization with the time matrix. The black hole was still encoded within the frequency patterns of both dimensions, and when the bridge was closed, the whole pattern fragmented, changing location within the outer atmosphere of both planets. Again, it took generations to rediscover the continued existence and new location of the hole, and by this time the genetic mutations that this project had initiated began to show themselves. Knowing that the hole was responsible for their declining species, they hoped to retrieve and reorganize the lost energies so as to reverse the genetic mutation and restore health to their species. Though they had the technology to seal off the hole and stop it from pulling energy, they did not do this because the reversing the mutation was within retrieving the energy from the hole and permanently closing the structure. The Zeta could no longer reside within their planet's atmosphere, and so they decided to evacuate and temporarily relocate to another planet within an adjacent dimension to their own, where they could continue with the project of retrieving the energies from the hole. They had not planned on anyone raiding their project, but that is what took place. Other, more advanced groups within the surrounding galaxy knew the danger of keeping the black hole opened. It was pulling energy at an alarming rate and posed a serious threat to the entire time matrix coordinate that was home to the Zeta and many others. The black hole was sealed, a process which took time and accelerated its magnetism. The Zeta home planet and its dimensional counterpart were sucked in, leaving only a small portion of the planetary soul matrix behind within the time matrix. It is through this event that the Zeta became trapped within your system, and the others to which it had migrated. Literally homeless and rapidly declining, they had no choice but to seek other solutions. We hope that this little story about the Zeta will serve as education to your scientists who play with small particle mechanics before they have the knowledge to understand the consequences of their actions. Holographic inserts and matrix transplantation to orchestrate a mental takeover of the species. When a soul robbery or forced matrix They will become stuck within their positions in the time matrix and unable to evolve until those trapped energies are released. Perhaps now you will be able to comprehend